Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to your Midweek Mindset Reset on Discover Your Dreams. Before we begin, let's take a moment to slow down together. Wherever you are, allow yourself to arrive fully. Let the noise of the day soften around you. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Feel your chest rise, your ribs expand, your belly open. And a long, steady exhale through your mouth. Let it all go. Again, inhale, drawing in clarity, presence, and calm. And soften as you exhale. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let your body settle into this moment that belongs entirely to you. If you've been questioning yourself lately, wondering if you're making the right choices, or feeling pulled between what feels true for you and what others might expect, just notice that. No judgment, just awareness. Because this week, we're diving into something subtle but powerful, something that can quietly shape the direction of your entire life. Choosing alignment over approval. Alignment is that inner yes, the feeling in your chest when something resonates with who you really are. Approval is the external nod, the hope that someone else will validate your choices so you can feel safe making them. One comes from within, the other comes from outside. And when those two are in conflict, it can feel like you're being stretched in opposite directions. So today we're going to explore what it looks like to return to yourself, to trust your inner compass, and to choose the path that feels true, even if everyone around you doesn't understand it. Wanting approval is completely human. We are built for connection, and we naturally crave a sense of belonging. We want to feel understood, accepted, and supported by the people around us. Because of that, it makes perfect sense that we sometimes look to others for validation. We start asking ourselves things like whether we're making the right decision, whether our choices will make sense to the people in our lives, and whether others will understand what we're doing. These questions can slip into our minds so easily, and without even noticing it, we can begin to prioritize external approval over our own internal alignment. It doesn't happen because we lack confidence or because we don't trust ourselves. It happens because we don't want to risk feeling disconnected from the people we care about. But when approval becomes the priority, something subtle begins to happen beneath the surface. We start to override ourselves without even noticing it. We say yes to things that don't feel right in our bodies. We stay quiet in moments when something inside us is asking to be spoken. We adjust, soften, or reshape parts of who we are just to fit into someone else's expectations. And over time, that creates distance. Not distance from other people, although that can happen too, but distance from ourselves. Because every time you ignore your inner voice, you send yourself a message. You teach yourself that your truth is less important than someone else's comfort. You teach yourself that your intuition can wait, that your needs can be postponed, that your authenticity is negotiable. And the more often you do that, the easier it becomes to forget what our own voice even sounds like. Alignment doesn't always feel easy. It doesn't always arrive with confidence, and it certainly doesn't always come with certainty. But even when it feels uncomfortable, alignment feels honest. There's a quiet steadiness to it, a gentle inner knowing that whispers, "This is right for me," even if the path ahead feels unfamiliar. Sometimes choosing alignment means making a decision that other people may not fully understand. It might mean setting a boundary that feels new or uncomfortable because you've never held that line before. It might mean saying no in a moment when you would normally default to yes, simply because you don't want to disappoint anyone. Alignment isn't about being right in anyone else's eyes. It's about being true in your own. It's about honoring the part of you that knows what you need, what you value, and what feels authentic, even when it challenges old patterns or invites others to see you differently. When you choose alignment, you choose yourself, And that choice creates a life that feels grounded, intentional, and deeply real. This is where this week's affirmation becomes especially grounding. I don't need permission to honor what feels right. Take a moment and let that settle into your body. Let it move past the mind and land somewhere deeper. You don't need anyone else's validation before you take a step forward. You do not need agreement or approval before you choose to trust yourself. You are allowed to honor what feels true for you, even if that truth is quiet, even if it's unfamiliar, even if it's still taking shape. Your inner knowing doesn't need to be loud to be real. It doesn't need to be perfect to be worthy of listening to. It simply needs your willingness to acknowledge it. When you give yourself permission to follow what feels right, you begin to build a relationship with your own intuition, one choice at a time. And that relationship becomes a source of strength, clarity, and self-trust that no one else can give you. Choosing alignment can feel uncomfortable at first. When you start listening to yourself more deeply, it's completely normal for worries to rise up. You might find yourself wondering what other people will think, or questioning whether you might be making the wrong choice. You might even worry about disappointing someone you care about. Those thoughts don't make you weak. They make you human. They show that you value connection, that you care about the impact you have on the people around you. But here's something important to remember. Discomfort doesn't automatically mean you're off track. Sometimes, discomfort is simply a sign that you're doing something different, something that stretches you beyond old patterns. Sometimes it means you're choosing a path that is more honest, more aligned, and more reflective of who you are becoming. Growth often feels unfamiliar. Truth often feels vulnerable. Alignment often feels like a quiet courage rising inside of you. And that feeling, even when it's uncomfortable, is worth paying attention to. This week, when you feel yourself being pulled between what others expect from you and what feels true inside, give yourself permission to pause. Take a deep breath, step back from the noise, and ask yourself a simple but powerful question. What would I choose if I didn't need anyone's approval? Let that answer rise at its own pace. There is no need to force it or rush it. Your inner clarity often speaks softly, and it deserves the space to be heard. Once that truth begins to surface, gently remind yourself, I don't need permission to honor what feels right. You are allowed to trust your own knowing. You are allowed to follow what feels aligned, even if it's unfamiliar, even if it challenges old patterns, even if others don't immediately understand. And remember, every small step you take in the direction of your own truth matters. Even the tiniest shift toward alignment strengthens your self-trust and brings you closer to the life that feels authentic to you. Take one final intentional breath. Let your shoulders soften again and allow your whole body to settle into a sense of ease. You are allowed to trust yourself. You are allowed to honor your truth. You are allowed to choose alignment, even when it feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable. Now let's repeat the affirmation together, letting it anchor you from the inside out. I don't need permission to honor what feels right. And once more, with even more presence. I don't need permission to honor what feels right. Carry that with you throughout the week. Let it guide your choices, your boundaries, your voice, and the way you show up for yourself. Let it remind you that your inner wisdom is worth listening to, and that your truth deserves space in your life. Thank you for being here, for showing up for yourself, and for choosing this moment of reflection and alignment. I'll see you next week for another Midweek Mindset Reset.